Good evening and welcome to Card Fellows Live and the Card Fellows podcast show. Do not adjust your screen. You are once again joined by just one old bald guy this week. The other old bald guy will be back next week. His travel plans were to be back tonight, but had some issues and will not be joining the show tonight. So you're stuck with me, and we are going to be talking about some baseball cards. And we look back at some of the kind of cool sets from the mid 80s, the 1985 Topps baseball set, just loaded with some awesome rookie cards, Kirby Puckett, Roger Clemens, among others. But the 1986 Topps base set left just a ton to be desired. Not much there for star power. Ozzie Guillen was there, Vince Coleman, about as good as it gets. But when Topps released the 1986 traded set that year, that's where the good stuff was. It was loaded with big-name rookies, Barry Bonds, Bo Jackson, Jose Canseco, headline what still remains an iconic 1980s baseball card set. Now, obviously, the controversy around Bonds and Canseco and Bo's injury, along with, just your kind of typical junk wax era overproduction, has subdued the excitement for the set, but it is still a big favorite. Let's pull up some of the photos here this week, and we got the set here. Sealed sets typically sell for around $25. This one here that you're seeing is wrapped by BBCE. They did not come wrapped from the factory. So if you ever run into a set of these and they're wrapped in cellophane or something, it was not wrapped like that from the factory. They just put a piece of tape over it. And today, when you run into these sets, that tape has yellowed quite significantly. So you can kind of see here, even this one that was wrapped by BBCE, that tape is kind of yellow. It's a brownish type of hue. It's a 132 card set, and like previous Topps trade sets, the design is pretty much a copy of the standard full issue set. The numbers do end with the letter T. For example, card number 11T. The backs are also a bit brighter, as they did use a little bit different card stock for the traded set compared to the standard set. And like the standard set, there is a Tiffany edition of the traded series as well, which is much more rare and much more valuable. Let's kind of get into some of the cards. And again, Matt's not here, so we won't get quite as deep into the weeds as we do when he's around. But I'm going to try to give you some of that PSA information that he typically does. Barry Bonds, baseball's most prolific home run hitter of all time, hit more home runs during a season than anyone else. He's also the career home run leader with 762, 7-time National League MVP, 14-time All-Star, and he's just 65 hits short of 3,000 hits. Definitely the most dominant offensive player in the history of baseball, but of course, all of that is tarnished by the PED scandal. No one really knows how good Bonds would have been. I think he still would have been a very good player, certainly above average player, and probably even a Hall of Famer. But with everything going on, it's really hard to say exactly what those stats would have ended up like had he not done what he did. I would say it's pretty fair to say he probably would not be the all-time home run leader, but definitely a really good player. Someday he could get in the Hall of Fame. It really just kind of depends on how people view and perceive players from this era going forward. This 1986 Topps number 11T is by far the most graded card of the set. There was like 70,000 cards graded in this 86 set. 51,570 of them are the Bonds card. There's 4,800 PSA 10s, and a PSA 10 is currently selling for around $350. Now, that Bonds card certainly, has a lot of value, and it is popular, but I think if you ask people right now which one they would want, I would say it's probably the Bo Jackson card. I think Bo Jackson, probably the most explosive athlete the world has ever seen. His career obviously cut way, way too short by the devastating hip injury while playing for the Raiders. To this day, he is the only player that has played in Major League Baseball All-Star Game and the NFL Pro Bowl. He was the Baseball All-Star Game MVP in 1989. Doesn't have those super impressive career stats, mostly because he just didn't play that long, especially in baseball. But those explosive plays really have built his legacy. When he broke the bat over his knee, that was another one. And if you really ask anyone who grew up in the late 80s and early 1990s, they'll tell you, there's really never been a more dominant video game player than Bo Jackson in Super Tecmo Bowl. The Raiders just simply unbeatable in that game, and that's the legacy of Bo Jackson. I think when people from my generation think about great sports heroes and great sports stars, they think about Bo Jackson, really what could have been had he not been injured. Guy hit huge home runs. There was that marketing campaign, Bo Knows, that was everywhere. This is kind of an interesting tidbit I found to show you just how great of an athlete he was. He was a 2-time state champion in the decathlon and track, but he hated running long distances. So he would build up such a big lead, a big points lead in the decathlon. He didn't even need to run in the 1500 to win the 2 state championships. So he did it by only competing in 9 of the 10 events. This card here has been graded 9,723 times, 1,115 PSA 10s, and a PSA 10 Bo Jackson 1986 tops traded. Currently selling right now for around $375, so slightly more valuable than the Bonds card. Jose Canseco, he was the guy. We're talking about earlier this year, Wander Franco. Now Franco's hurt, but Jose Canseco was basically the Wander Franco of his era. He was the guy that everyone was anticipating in 1986. He did not disappoint. Hit 33 home runs, had 117 RBIs, had like an 0 for 33 stretch in August, and that probably cost him quite a bit. I mean, he may have, been close to 40 home runs, might have been, I think he actually was leading the league in RBIs when that happened, and certainly probably would have won the RBI crown had that not happened. But he did win the American League Rookie of the Year. I'm going to take a quick drink here. His 1988 season hit 40 home runs and he eclipsed 40 home runs, hit 40 stolen bases. That 40-40 season ended up winning him the American League MVP. And that's kind of a funny story as well. I watched a documentary with him, and he said that he set that as his goal for the year that year to go 40-40, but didn't realize until later in the season when people started talking about it that no one had ever done it before. He didn't realize that, but that was his goal going into the season, was to have a 40-40 season. When Mark McGwire joined the Athletics, that duo became known as the Bash Brothers. Now, McGwire's cards came up in 1987. Those two were one of the most prolific hitting combinations in baseball. In 1987, Canseco hit 31 home runs. McGwire hit 49. And that team went on to 3 straight World Series, 1988, 89, 90. They won it in 89. Canseco also won the World Series with the Yankees in 2000. He ended up hitting 462 career home runs. That puts him 37th all-time in the major leagues. But again, the same thing that happened with Bonds happened with Canseco. The performance-enhancing drugs is going to cloud his status among the best who have ever played. And the kind of interesting thing when you watch Canseco in a lot of these interviews, he seems to me like a guy that doesn't, he's going to tell you exactly what happened. He seems very honest about it. So maybe that's something that will help him later on when he gets, I think time's going to pass and people may think about putting these guys into the Hall of Fame. Obviously, if Canseco goes, there's going to be a lot of other guys, Bonds, McGwire. They're going to be kind of lumped into that same group, and I think will also go. Canseco's 1986 tops traded 20T, number 20T, has been graded by PSA 7,364 times. Is the third most. 957 gem mint 10s, and those 10s typically sell for about $80. We're getting into some of these I would say that those 3 cards were kind of the top tier. This is Will the Thrill Clark, and he's best known for that beautiful left-handed swing. Career 303 hitter, 2,100 hits, 284 homers, 6-time All-Star, 1 Gold Glove, 2 Silver Sluggers, and he is a member of the College Baseball Hall of Fame. His number 22 is retired by the San Francisco Giants. In this 1986 Topps card, number 24T has been graded 3,260 times with 1,312 PSA 10s. And you can pick up a PSA 10 of this card for right around 50 to 60 bucks. So pretty affordable. And Clark is a very popular guy still to this day. I sell quite a few of his raw cards. People are just interested in him. And I think people from San Francisco really liked him. He actually had some very productive years in Texas as well. When Palmeiro moved on, the Rangers picked him up and slid him into their first base spot. Here's Wally Joyner, and Joyner finished second to Jose Canseco in Rookie of the Year voting in 1986. Played for 4 teams during his 16-year career. Best known, obviously, playing for the Angels. He started in the All-Star game his rookie year, but never made it back to the All-Star game. Career 289 hitter. But he played in an era that first baseman, you just needed to hit home runs. I mean, you're compared to Mark McGwire and those kind of guys, Palmeiro, Will Clark, and Wally Joyner just never put up those kind of power numbers, but really good, like I said, 289 hitter, very good contact hitter, 204 home runs in 16 years. His 1986 Topps number 51T has been graded 257 times at PSA with 107 gem mint 10s, and they sell for about 30 bucks. Here's a guy, also a rookie card here, Bobby Bonilla. And Bobby Bonilla, we just had Bobby Bonilla Day every year, July 1st. He gets a payment from the New York Mets for $1.19 million. And he gets that all for deferring a $5.9 million, what was left of his salary when he was released by the Mets. And it's a pretty good deal for Bobby Bo. So he's still getting checks. He's going to get that check. He got it from 2011 all the way to 2035. And I think he actually has a deferment from the Baltimore Orioles, too. I think he actually gets about $500,000 a year from them as well. So Bobby Bonilla, been retired for quite some time, still collecting the checks, though. He hit 287 home runs during his 15-year career, and his card has been graded by PSA 309 times with 141 PSA 10s. They sell for about 50 bucks a piece. Our buddy from the Sports Card Show stopped by just to say hi. Said he loved watching Wally Joyner, and he was collecting Jose Canseco and Wally Joyner back in 1986. Let's move on to the next guy, another big rookie card from this set, and that's Kevin Mitchell. Mitchell started out with the Mets, actually won the World Series with the Mets in 1986, was a big part of that team, actually. It was kind of funny. He sparked the 10th inning rally of the infamous Game 6 of the 1986 series. He had a 2-out single. Mitchell would end up scoring the tying run on that game on a wild pitch during Mookie Wilson's at-bat, and Wilson would later hit the ball right through Billy Buckner's legs, and that led to another run scoring. The Mets winning Game 6, and then the Red Sox pretty much collapse, and the Mets win that series. But Kevin Mitchell was actually a pinch hitter. The Mets had done a kind of a double switch, I think, in the 9th, and they had basically effectively taken Darryl Strawberry out of the game. So Mitchell came in to hit for him. But he actually thought the game was over. I think Keith Hernandez hit a fly ball, and Mitchell went to the clubhouse, started getting undressed. They're like, hey, you got to come out here and hit. So super wild story, gets on base, ends up scoring a tying run, ends up winning the World Series. I think most people remember Kevin Mitchell as a San Francisco Giant. He was the National League MVP in 1989. Giants lost the series that year to Oakland. The infamous base series, that was one with the earthquake. His 1986 Topps traded number 74T has been graded by PSA 225 times with 125 10s. So a really good gem right there. When we get into some of these cards later on, they are obviously really going to be more low pop cards, and they're cards that collectors were sending in because they're either trying to get a PSA 10 set, or they're trying to they're not going to send in a card that's not going to get a 10 on some of these lower ones. So you're going to see the gem rates really go up. These cards were actually really tough to grade because they have, it's a white bottom, but the top of the card is black, and it's just prone to chipping and all kinds of fun stuff. The centering is not very good either, as you can see in this card here. Not very good centering. But a PSA 10 in this card recently sold for about $100, and that's kind of one of those deals where there just isn't that much supply of them. So I think people are just kind of putting them out there for a price and waiting for someone to come along that just wants one. Here's another guy, Danny TARTABULL, number 108T is his Topps rookie card. He was a lot of these guys, what's interesting is they weren't in the Topps set, but they were in like the Fleer set, they were in the Donruss set. I remember TARTABULL had a card in the 86 Fleer in the standard issue set. But in the Topps set, these guys just didn't appear. So they're in this traded set. TARTABULL, solid career, spanned 14 years, hit 262 home runs. He was an all-star, though, just once in 1991 with the Kansas City Royals. And that earned him a lucrative contract with the Yankees. Ended up going to the Yankees. That relationship soured. TARTABULL was finally traded in 1995. It's kind of famous story where he said leaving the Yankees was like getting out of jail. His card's been graded just 56 times, only 10 of them getting 10s, 17% gem rate. Again, I haven't really seen one of those on the market recently. Just not very many of them. I think they're probably being held by collectors that are putting together the set. Maybe there's people out there who want to collect a PSA 10 set of this set. So I'm sure that's where a lot of those are. Here's a guy, one of my favorite players, Andres Gallaraga, the big cat. Played for the Expos, I remember, with the Rockies. 5-time All-Star, 2-time Gold Glover, 2-time Silver Slugger. Hit 399 home runs during his career. His number 40T 1986 Topps trade card. Been graded over 900 times by PSA. Doesn't grade well, though, for some reason. Only 139 10s, 288 9s, and the PSA 8 is actually the most popular grade for this card, 408 PSA 8s. But a PSA 10 sold for $35 recently. So if you're into the big cat, I think that's pretty good value because there's just not many of them around. Obviously, you got to find other people if you want to resell it that are interested in the big cat. But I enjoyed the guy. Now, here's another guy. We're going to get into kind of some guys with funny physiques. John KRUK. In this picture, pretty svelte, but ended up becoming a bigger dude in his prime. His rookie card right here, number 56T. KRUK was drafted in 81, came to the majors in 86. 1987, he hit 20 homers for the Padres. Here's an interesting story, though, John KRUK. He had 2 roommates while he was playing in 1988. One of the guys was kind of someone, I think, from his hometown. But that guy was a bank robber, and the FBI had been tracking this gentleman down, and finally came to KRUK, I think early in 87, and said, we feel like you know this. Do you know this guy? And tried to get some information out of him. And the guy was on the run for like another, I think, 6 months or so before they caught him. It was actually like September before they caught him. And KRUK had a rough year in 88, and he says that it's because he was stressed out. He thought this guy was maybe going to come and go after him because he thought he was informing on him. But crazy story. He had a roommate that was a bank robber. He ended up getting traded to the Phillies. He had a rough year that year. Also, I think this guy's known, John KRUK, known for having that mullet. He went to the World Series of the Phillies in 93, lost to the Blue Jays. Had kind of that portly stature. He was diagnosed with testicular cancer in 1994. He took a ball kind of off the groin area for Mitch Williams, I think was thrown over to him, trying to pick somebody off, and they discovered he had testicular cancer. Between that and the bad knees, it was kind of over for John KRUK. Hit 200 home runs in his career. His 56T was traded 277 times, 106 10s. PSA 10 recently sold for $75. He was, and I think he still is, a really popular player due to the haircut, the body, the personality. He was a super media savvy guy, and he worked for ESPN for a number of years. Candyman Sports Card joining the show, says he loves the set, and he's working on a Bo Jackson PSA set registry now. So trying to pick off that Bo Jackson card we talked about earlier. And I think that's, a lot of guys they'll pick a player, they'll try to build the set around the PSA registry set there, or a set registry. But they may just say, hey, I want to build the highest graded 1986 Topps trade set. I think a lot of people try to do stuff like that too. Here's a guy that I don't like. Billy Hatcher. He had a rated rookie card from Donruss in 1985, was in the Fleer set in 1986, but the 86 Topps traded was his first Topps card. He had a solid 10-year career in the big leagues. Not outstanding, but very solid. But I think the thing he's known for is catching some magic late in the 1990 season while playing for the Reds. Billy Hatcher, I think he hit over 500 in the postseason 1990. Hit 750 during the 4-game sweep of the heavily favored Oakland A's in the 1990 World Series. I'm never going to forgive him for that. Somehow he didn't win the MVP, though. Jose Rio got the MVP that year. But I feel like Hatcher just almost I don't know, it's difficult for a hitter to single-handedly destroy another team, but they just could not get Billy Hatcher out. Only 14 Billy Hatcher number 45 T cards have been graded, and 7 of those 14 are 10s. Haven't seen them, though, on the market. Last week, we talked about some big dudes, and we talked a little bit about with KRUK, but how about Pete Incaviglia? His rookie card's in this set as well. It was number 48T. And a super interesting tidbit here on Pete Incaviglia. He was drafted by the Montreal Expos, refused to play in the minor leagues, was traded to Texas. Rangers had no problem suiting him up with a big glove. But Incaviglia is just one of 2 players, and I think we talked about the other guy maybe a month or 2 ago. Only 2 players that I know of anyway, and I believe this record still stands, that never played in the minor leagues that played in the majors. You got Pete Incaviglia and Dave Stieb with the Toronto Blue Jays. And this trade led to the Pete Incaviglia rule. Teams can no longer trade drafted players until after they are under contract for 1 year. This rule, I think, has since been eliminated, but that was a rule for about 20 years after that whole deal happened. PSA has graded 64 of these cards, about 2/3 of them being 10s, and a 10 recently sold for $35. So pretty affordable if you can find them. Obviously not a whole lot of them, but they are out there. Here's the back of the card. You can see no information on that. He had not played in minors when they printed the card, so no stats in the back of Pete's card. Here's another guy. Last week we talked about Joey Meyer of the Brewers, and I think Joey Meyer really wanted to be Rob Deere. Rob Deere, big burly home run hitter for the Brewers. Both guys struck out a lot. Pete Incaviglia struck out a lot too. Unlike Joey Meyer, though, Deere stuck around the big leagues for about 10 years, hit 220 career homers, and hit 20 or more home runs for 8 straight seasons. So a powerful guy, a powerful bat, a little bit of a weakness in the field, and I think the big thing was the strikeouts. He did break the American League record for strikeouts in 1987. With 187 strikeouts, held that record until 2008. But really, I think Rob Deere would be a guy that would fit into baseball quite a bit these days. We don't play a lot of small ball these days. A lot of it's about power, and people don't seem to be too concerned about strikeouts. And for his career, Rob Deere struck out once every 2.75 at-bats. So struck out a lot, but the home runs were cool, and just a cool guy. And the Brewers had those, you can see in the card, had those pinstripe unis, and just kind of takes me back to watching that Brewers team back in that era. Hard to believe, but with all that star power we've been talking about, and thinking about all these great players that we think about that were in this set, but none of those players actually made the Hall of Fame. There were 2 Hall of Fame players in the 1986 Topps trade set. We're looking at one card right now, and that's Tom Seaver. Tom Terrific was traded to Boston in 1986. That was his last season in the major leagues. And this Seaver card has been graded 396 times. That's by far the most among all the veteran cards in the set. 152 gem mint 10s. It's about a 40% gem rate. PSA 10s have recently sold for around $50. The interesting thing about this card, I think, though, is, and I haven't talked about it yet tonight, but a lot of just posed shots, and not a lot of action shots in this set. But this card clearly has been airbrushed, and the photo it kind of looks like, if I told you this card was made in 1965, you'd be like, yeah, sure, it looks like something. I mean, the photo kind of looks old timey, and the airbrush job was, I would say, not awesome. All right, last card of the show, and that's Phil NIEKRO. He is the only other Hall of Famer in this set. NIEKRO was released by the Yankees before the season started in 1986. The Indians picked him up at the beginning of the year, and he was a spry 47 years old at the time. He would pitch in 86 and in 87 before calling a career at the end of the 1987 season. Knuckleballer threw 318 wins over the course of 24 major league seasons. Just incredible guy. Pitched till he's almost 50 years old in the major leagues. The number 77T NIEKRO card has been graded 79 times by PSA. 38 10s. It's about a 40% gem rate. Haven't seen any on eBay recently. Again, I think the people who have these are kind of holding on to them. But hope you guys enjoyed this trip down memory lane with the 1986 Topps trade set. Looks like had a few people stop into the show tonight who kind of look at the show or look at this set with reverence. I think it's a fun time in baseball cards. It's very similar to where we're at now, where there was a huge popularity and a lot of interest in baseball cards when these things came out. And it's just a shame that a couple of the big stars in there kind of went down the path that they did, because I think they probably could have been all-stars or Hall of Famers either way. But still a really good set. And when you see the 1986 Topps cards, you know what you're looking at. I thought it was great last year to have that design in the 2021 Topps product. You know, it was the 35-year anniversary of that set. So that was kind of fun to see. It's just a fun set. And like I said, a lot of big star power, even though the rookie cards, none of them ended up being Hall of Famers. But just a lot of cool stuff. Candyman says, great show, and he loves the podcast. And that, thanks, Candyman. And also just want to remind you guys, you can check out the show on the podcast, so you can, if you take it with you wherever you want to go. Matt's always really good about reminding you of that. Matt's going to be back next week. And the other thing that him and I have been talking on the phone a little bit, he's been on the road. We want to get back to making some shorties, and they will be shorter, actually. I think we're going to make some, kind of under 10-minute long type shorties and kind of bring some quick hitting type of stuff to you. I think that that's a chunk of content that people would enjoy, and I think we're going to just try to get more stuff out for you too. There's just a lot of these little topics I think that would be great to talk about, but it's just kind of a tough time right now. It's summer and everybody's traveling and doing things, and they got the kids home and all that kind of stuff too. But we'll get that frequency back up real soon. Hope you guys have been enjoying the show. We've been enjoying delivering it to you and just talking about this stuff. It's just, it's part of my enjoyment in the hobby. So everybody have a great night, and we will see you next